All right, dude, we're on right now. Passion of Christ.
Nope.
No, wrong. The Last Temptation of Christ. Sir Dylan here. John was not able to make it, but basically we are watching 3 different movies about Jesus' ministry and crucifixion. 2 of them we believe are heretical. The one that we just watched today is absolutely it's insane. So we're going to be talking about it this episode. But then the next 2 episodes that we see with Dylan, we will be going over the Passion of Christ. What's the third one?
Jesus Christ Superstar. I think it'd be best if we did Superstar and then Passion, because Superstar is heretical, Passion is Mel Gibson.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
so
art.
So basically, we are just reacting to our just recent watch of The Last Temptation of Christ. I wrote down notes.
Expect this episode to be 3 hours long and us just staring at a TV screen. So
we are not watching the movie on the podcast. We just got done watching it. Now we're just going to talk about it. So if you really want, go watch The Last Temptation of Christ. It is the most insane movie I've ever seen. Yeah, especially in terms of the depiction of Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. It's a straight mockery.
I've seen The Lighthouse.
We set up the entire podcast in silence, basically, because we wanted to wait to talk about it till we got it all set up and recording.
Sworn to secrecy. Can't say anything unless the mics are on.
We made a blood oath to not say anything until we.
What blood type are you?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm A positive.
I'm red, dude. I'm red blood.
Red blood?
I'm red blood.
Rock flag and you.
Lower my mic. Here, entertain the guests as I lower my mic.
So I went and got my blood drawn last week with William Strickland. He was on a while ago, a few episodes ago. Or I guess several episodes ago by this point, because it's like we got 10 before this one comes out or something. Turns out I predicted it. I'm like, I'd hate it if I was A positive, and I am. It sucked. I was like, because then it's like AT, and it's like, oh, your last name? Whatever. Sucks.
Okay, so back to the movie. At the beginning of the movie, it did a little quote, or at least I quoted it.
Yeah,
a little bit
did.
like a disclaimer, pretty much.
Yeah.
This film is not based upon the Gospels, but upon the fictional exploration of the external spiritual conflict.
Yes.
Which is not enough of a disclaimer, in my opinion.
I looked into it afterwards. So it's based off of there was a book written in 1955, I think, called The Last Temptation of Christ. And it was written by some German philosopher. And I didn't read it, obviously. We watched it.
We watched the movie. Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. So I have no idea what the book gets after. But I think based off of that film alone, I made several conclusions about it that was very, I don't know. It's kind of a mess right now, but I'll go as you go. You know.
So we're just gonna be rocking that off my notes as we go through it.
Yeah, and I'll throw.
So the notes are in chronological order through the movie.
Yeah, we weren't going back and forth because that would be insane.
I wrote from forward to back, up to down.
Weird people go back to front. So
I think the Japanese write like that, or some maybe Chinese.
Yeah, they always start at the end of the movie.
Watch it in reverse.
That's why all the books are backwards.
Japanese is just English but in reverse.
No.
Yeah, it's a fun fact actually. That statement is just as truthful as this movie. This film is not based upon the Gospels, but upon this fictional exploration of the external spiritual conflict. Even the external spiritual conflict, like that's still claiming truth in it, in the sense that it's still claiming that this is how the spiritual conflict would have gone.
Yeah, I do think that there's merit in the question of how would it be.
Wait, hold on. I am stupid. Please remind me again, is fictional or nonfiction real?
Fiction is not real.
Okay, well, then never mind. I'm done. That's
okay.
Plenty fine of it.
Nonfiction.
That's so awkward. That's so embarrassing.
What? What did you think?
I was basing my whole argument.
Wait, can I see this?
Yeah. If you can read my penmanship.
Yeah, I can. Fuck. Oh.
Can you read it?
Oh, yeah, no, I can. I understand. You were like, upon the real exploration of the external spiritual conflict. Okay. Yeah, fictional as in from someone's mind.
Yeah, for sure.
So either way.
Wrong interpretation.
Wrong. Full argument gone. Yeah. Watch the whole movie
Actually, movie's chill. No, just kidding. Yeah, insane. So basically, my first note, I guess we'll go through this. I don't know how many of these notes are valid or not. I know you have a ton of thoughts, especially with all the different scenes. Every now and then you were just like, oh. And then you just held yourself back instead of talking about it.
Yeah, I can.
It opened with Jesus he just was rolling around in the dirt.
Yeah.
Kind of what I interpreted as fighting an internal spiritual battle.
Yeah. I think I know exactly what that was. It was like essentially up until this point, he was just a man, and this was God possessing him or beginning to enter him. Right?
Yeah, because eventually he makes the comment that it's not that you choose. It's if you can cast out Satan, can you cast out God?
Yeah, you can't cast out God, is what he said.
Yeah,
you can cast out a demon, but you can't cast out God. As though he was possessed by God almost, right? Which it looks like it from a lot of the scenes in the middle where he's doing...
There's a lot of bizarre...
There are moments where he's talking that's very like profound and like he spoke with authority. And then afterward he's like, wait, what are you doing? And that's the conflict.
There was chaos in it. There's always chaos in everything he did.
A lot of it, yeah.
Or at least it always resulted in chaos.
Yeah.
Even John the Baptist, that was insane. That was a trip for sure. I feel like a major disgrace to John there.
Yeah. Not you know.
Not John, our beautiful tech man, but
yeah, John the Baptist.
What did he say though?
What do you mean?
I don't remember. We'll get to it. John the Baptist explains.
Can't even read his own handwriting.
Well, I was trying to write fast, so I didn't write like grammatically correct sentences because the movie kept going.
Yeah. It wouldn't stop when I looked away.
No, it was a problem. I'd start writing, the movie would keep going on. It was about more stuff that I wanted to write down.
That's why I didn't write notes.
He was trying to explain that God is full of anger, especially through Sodom and Gomorrah. That's the example that he used. And he was explaining to Jesus that God is an angry God. And then Jesus was like, yeah.
Right. Because there was a conflict where Jesus was like, he used the word love in regard to when people were about to stone Mary Magdalene, I think. Yeah. But he used the word love, and he was like, it was a word that was just taken out of my mouth. That's my Willem Dafoe impression, by the way.
Can't believe Willem Dafoe played Jesus in a movie. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I've seen Willem Dafoe in so many movies. I think
there had to be some sort of cut from the movie because I heard that there was a penis double because Willem packs a huge one. I learned this from Elijah. He was like, did you know that they had to get a body double because he had way too big of a... Yeah. Anyway, he liked Willem a little too much, I would say.
According to my conspiracy theories, I think Willem's one of the good old Satanists, along with many of the other Hollywood elite.
Kind of looks like it, but I love his acting.
That movie, it felt like I was watching a play.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely... So he actually... His whole career started like in the theater, you know?
That makes sense. There you go.
Most old actors started... Like, it's why... I figured this out. I pieced this together. A lot of old actors nowadays can sing because they needed to back in the day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. They needed to learn some facet of singing.
Like watching it, I didn't feel like more modern movies where I'm like sucked into this new world. It was rather, I feel like I'm watching some people on a stage playing a character.
Yeah, honestly, it looked like it. It was really interesting. I feel like if they'd made this movie now, it would have been crazy surreal, like even more so.
Yeah. For sure.
Like with the editing.
They would have been able to get away with a lot more of the lewdness as well.
Oh, yeah. There was...
There's a surprising amount of booba flying around.
Yeah. So, also in Airplane.
There was an airplane?
No, in Airplane, the movie.
What's that? I don't know what that is, dude.
That sucks. It's a comedy movie.
Is that another heretical film?
If by heretical you mean funny, then yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No, it's whatever. There's tits at one point. It's awesome.
But
it's
Jesus,
so random.
Every single time I wrote down the name Jesus in my notes here, I put quotations around it because that's not my Jesus, dude. That is not Jesus. That's a man. That's not
weaker
God.
brother kind of activity there.
You think so?
Yeah. Being like, that's not Jesus. I need to like affirm that to myself a lot.
I wrote down
that Willem Dafoe isn't God.
Well, then call me weak, bro. But so basically, it opened up. Judas seems to be his boss. Yeah. That was strange. Judas almost knew him before he was Christ, if you will, before the Messiah. See, it's basically, this all resolves around the idea that Jesus was just chosen by God to be the Christ, or the Messiah, rather.
To be embedded with goddom, to do something.
Yeah, and so he was a very sinful man, just like the rest of us. And he was just lifted up by God.
Yeah, randomly chosen.
Yeah, instead of, what the Bible preaches, which is he is literally sinless.
I looked it up multiple times. I'm like, oh, maybe someone could, like, maybe it doesn't say that Jesus was sinless. No, it says it. And like, I looked it up just on Google, and it's like, it doesn't explicitly say that Jesus was without sin. And it showed me a bunch of verses that were like, he knew no sin. I'm like, these are extremely explicit.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Yeah. Thanks, AI. Yeah. Being wrong.
So, besides, if he had sin, or if he did know sin to any extent, could he have been the ultimate sacrifice? I don't believe so.
No.
He could not have been that perfect lamb take upon our sins.
The whole thing about the sacrificial lambs is they had to be not sinless, but spotless. They had to be without blemish, and he had plenty.
Yeah,
except for in the movie, they did a purification process. Willem's character, Jesus.
We can call him Jesus, maybe.
I was gonna do that. I almost called him Jesus, but I don't want to care that much. Jesus in the film,
the little brother. Yeah,
I really don't care. The little brother or the weaker brother?
The weaker brother. That's what I mean.
The little brother. So,
what were you saying?
I don't remember. I'll figure it out. We'll get back to it.
Yeah. Okay. So Judas was the boss, trying to force Jesus to make crosses. So he was actually making crosses as a carpenter or something like that to then crucify other messiahs or other people that were potentially going to be chosen by God.
I think Judas wasn't his boss in that regard. I'm pretty sure because he was like beating him up for making crosses.
So just calling him a hypocrite, maybe?
Yeah. That was a lot of the people were like, you're killing Jews.
Yeah, right.
Because and I think that's an interesting take on like, Jesus was a carpenter. In The Chosen, he's like whittling, right? In this, it's like, well, what could he have carpentered? Well, they needed crosses to crucify. Obviously, that's not good to take, but it is like...
It's a take.
It's a take.
It's a take.
He whittles with wood and makes crosses to hang Jews on. And he says he wants God to hate him because he doesn't want this burden on himself anymore. Right. This spiritual fight.
Which Jesus does, like you said, sweat blood. It's him in the garden asking God to take the cup from him kind of thing. But I don't know if that was in the Bible, right?
In this, he did not sweat blood.
No, and Jesus did not sweat blood.
The white dude with blue eyes, Jesus.
In fact, his prayer was very minimal. It wasn't, I don't think he asked him to take the cup from him.
He did.
Did he?
He was like,
was it the same words, though?
It wasn't the same words. A lot of it wouldn't have been the same words just because, why? It's not based off the Gospels.
So true.
Yeah. It's based off of a book that a German philosopher wrote. I don't know what that guy was on.
I would love to learn about that guy.
Yeah.
What's the point of making a movie like this unless it's...
I think there's probably it is, I thought it was honestly pretty crazy. I called toward the end of the movie, when Jesus was crucified, his guardian angel came up and was like, you can be done. Takes him off the cross. and he starts a life and has a family with Mary Magdalene and has kids.
And another Mary.
Yeah, because Mary Magdalene dies. God
beams her away in a blast of light.
Just went, and she's smiling, and it's like, and then so Jesus has kids, with like two women, Martha and Mary, like the other Mary.
Yeah. So all the while, again, not being crucified.
Yeah.
He stopped the crucifixion and walked away.
And then he catches it like years later. He catches Paul talking, preaching, and he's like, "This isn't true, I didn't do that, And
Jesus is saying that to Paul.
Yeah.
When Paul is like, Jesus died on the cross for our sins, and then Jesus is like, yeah, you're wrong.
Yeah, he came back. We saw him. Mm-hmm. All of that, like it was. For a minute, I was kind of tricked into thinking that this was because I was. Let me fix it. I predicted that when he was taken off the cross, it was going to be that was his last temptation, right? And it was, right? Because the temptation was that Jesus would have, like in the Bible, many were like asking or saying to him, like, why don't you have your angels take you down off the cross?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That honestly is the last temptation, I would assume. Literally. Because Jesus totally could have. He had that authority, technically, And so that's the entire sequence where he was taken off the cross and all of that, and led all of these years and confronted Paul. All of it was a illusion, like a dream almost, while he was on the cross. And he wakes up and he's just like, it is accomplished, it is finished, dude. Finished is a better word than accomplished. I feel like accomplished is like, I accomplished finishing my homework. Oh, I just used finish.
I mean, you can accomplish something, but that doesn't mean it's over.
I'm pretty sure one of
finished
the translations...
is done. Like that's it. The war is over.
The usage of the word accomplished, it's a personal take. I'm fairly certain one of the translations uses accomplished. I just don't like that word.
You can accomplish something and the war is not over. But if you finish something, it's over. That's a very...
I just think the word difference. Finished has more impact, but both are biblically accurate words. It is finished. It is accomplished.
Maybe you're right.
Yeah, dude. I know I'm right. Actually, don't know. Whatever. I don't need to fact check myself. It's probably right. Actually, what if the ESV it is accomplished? That would be insane because I love the ESV, and if it says...
All right, we're looking at this.
Yeah. What, do you have a problem with me opening up?
Flex tape.
Flex tape, dude? All right.
I don't know. I just got to entertain the people.
You got to entertain
Saw
them.
your boat in half. Seal it up with Flex Seal. Then you can sail across the ocean.
Now it says it is finished.
I ran out of ideas. It is finished? Yeah.
That's what it says. I looked up.
It is finished.
Yeah. It is finished. Oh my gosh. Quit taking me to 1 Kings, dude. Ugh. It is finished. Wow. It is done. Oh, in Revelation. That's a different thing. Okay, whatever. Oh. My shoulder itches.
It's
That wasn't my shoulder.
When it comes to actual Jesus,
mm-hmm.
Going into the garden and asking God to remove the cup from him kind of thing, we should probably read through that scripture because I want it's never felt like to me that he put his own will above God's, which is what makes it not sinful, right?
Right. Well, Jesus in... Spell in right. I keep spelling words wrong. I think my fat thumbs are getting fatter.
We've made it like 2 bullet points down my list.
Yeah, we'll get there. It's
yeah. Okay, cool.
No. Betrayal and arrest of Jesus.
Barnacle Boy and Mermaid Man. No, wait, I did that wrong. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. I call being Mermaid Man out of the two of us.
What? The high priestly prayer.
What are you reading right now?
I'm trying to find
the verses. I could pull it up in my Piper Bible.
Your Piker?
My paper Bible.
Let me try Matthew. We'll throw that in there. Resurrection.
I don't know what chapter it is.
Okay, Jesus prays in Gethsemane. And going a little farther, he fell on his face and prayed, saying, "My Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will."
Yeah, there you go.
So, yeah. It is, that technically, that sequence is close. He was sweating blood, though.
Because it's not like Jesus would have wanted to necessarily go through the pain, which is what makes it such a sacrifice, is it not?
Oh, he went back a second time. So technically it's actually wrong. He only prayed once in the movie. He prays twice.
So Jesus prays once. Jesus prays twice.
Yeah. The second time he says, "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done." You know, he asks twice. The first time he asked, he walked out and saw, He came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "So could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." And then he prayed the second time.
Yeah.
And then after that, he was betrayed. So anyway, during that time, Jesus is sweating blood from all the stress. The weight of the world on someone's shoulders, you know.
Was it you who've tried? I think you have tried to express to me how insane that is to be sweating blood, and how possible that is. It's simply, it's literally the bearing of that much stress on a human.
Yeah, it's
like Christians make the claim that Jesus literally had the most brutal death in all of history.
Yeah.
And you know, I definitely believe that personally. And I think there's a lot of things in the Bible that doesn't necessarily, it kind of gives you just enough to know how heinous it was without telling you every single detail.
Yeah. I think what doesn't help is a lot of modern, like we've seen really bad deaths.
Yeah.
You know? I'm going to whip out the perspiring blood. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. Some manuscripts omit verses 43 and 44.
Not only that, but when Jesus was praying in the movie, he called out to a few names. It was Moses, Elijah, and who? I have it written down.
In summary, Jesus' sweat like blood in Luke 22:44 is a figurative expression of his intense anguish and distress. Great. I think that is actually interesting, that it could be an interpretation for how much he could have been sweating blood. He could not have been. So technically, because it's only mentioned once in Luke. Right?
Well, so there's...
Not to say that Luke is any less accurate, but that the...
So there's the Transfiguration, and then there's one more time where he goes up to the mountain, right, and prays. I forget which one it is. Because there's... Maybe it's the same thing where the disciples fall asleep. But that's what was going on in the movie, where basically Christ actually calls out to Moses, Elijah, and Isaiah for power instead of God, which is, I thought to be
I think that was when he was doing the Was that the casting out demons stuff? Or when was that?
He was on the mountain. That's the same time he was praying for, or the lack of sweating blood. Same thing. Same moment.
Oh, in Gethsemane, he was reaching out to Moses, Elijah, and Isaiah?
He was asking them for power and strength.
Yeah.
Which I know...
The Transfiguration was an entirely separate deal.
Right, which is where he... Supposedly they see Moses, Elijah, and Isaiah, right?
No, they just see Moses and Elijah.
Moses and Elijah know Isaiah?
I think the reason why they brought up Isaiah is because a lot of Isaiah is prophecy.
Yeah.
And there was a part where it mentions Isaiah appearing to Jesus, showing him prophecy as though he went to the future, wrote the prophecy, and went back, making the prophecy less prophetic and more... I don't know. I guess technically it doesn't make it less prophetic because you went forward in time. That's strange. But, that's not biblical that Isaiah showed up to Jesus. Not biblical doesn't mean it didn't happen, I guess, but it's not biblical, so God doesn't want us to care about that.
So Jesus wants God to hate him for some reason.
Yeah. At the beginning, yeah.
At the beginning. Even at the end, he doesn't want to do it. He seems as though it would have always been easier for him if God did hate him. Until the very end. Then he was very happy that God doesn't hate him.
Yeah, I think because it was after he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Or Father, why have you forsaken me? That he does that whole sort of dream sequence where he has a family.
Yeah. And
it was at the end of that dream where all of his disciples show up and he's about to die in bed and they're like, or Judas was like...
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. All the disciples showed up and it was kind of like, this is the bad ending.
Judas always seemed like his right-hand man.
Yeah.
Where does Judas come along in the actual Bible when it refers to the disciples being called? I don't know when Judas or because for Jesus, he was just there from the beginning. Where they actually went around and called to the other disciples, but you pointed out how Jesus was not the one who called them.
Jesus didn't call anyone.
Yeah.
He didn't call anyone by name.
It was the other disciples.
John and Andrew or something, they were both like, I'm going to stay. They decided after they heard Jesus speak. It was a version of the Spirit or the Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah.
That he did. And these guys were like, now I'm going to follow him. Because before he didn't have followers. He was alone.
Mm-hmm.
First.
Except for Judas.
Yeah, Judas was around the whole time. In the movie. Okay.
So we got Jesus, we got Judas, we got Peter.
Judas Iscariot is first mentioned in the Bible in Matthew 10:4.
Matthew 10:4. That's late into the gospel, I feel like.
Yeah, well, he wasn't exact. Well, not really. Matthew's got 40 chapters in it.
Matthew does not have 40 chapters, dude. No shot. It's like 28, I think.
False. 38, I believe. Let me prove you wrong.
Yeah, prove me wrong.
28, damn it. That sucks. I know that it's the longest one.
It is the longest one, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was way more. That sucks. Do you want me to find the verse?
Oh, yeah. What were
it was just listing off the different members or the different disciples. Matthew 10.
So basically, Jesus did not start before his ministry already knowing Judas, I think is the point.
Yeah. Simon the Zealot and Judas Iscariot who betrayed him. The 12 apostles. That's just one mention. So, I'm sure in the others there's probably other mentions, but not probably beyond what was necessary, which was, and Judas, the one who betrayed him.
Yeah, then there was the, can you cast out God ?
Oh, yeah.
Which I do not believe that you can, nor do you want to.
I don't think God possesses people.
Also true. It's more of a sense of if you are chosen, I don't think you can throw that away.
I think
that's a big theological claim.
That's a whole
can of worms.
That's a stretch of Calvinism. That would be like, because the Spirit of God does dwell within us, right, as believers, but that doesn't make us God.
No, absolutely not.
Which is what was happening.
Jesus was saying.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you attain God Goddom.
Goddom.
Yeah, God. Yeah.
Goddom. Goddom.
Yeah, Brad and I were actually talking about that 2 nights ago, something like that.
Being possessed by God?
No, but rather being chosen ahead of time, or in the sense of like
Calvinism.
No, not just Calvinism, but rather, I don't disregard the label of Calvinism. I think it's biblical in the sense that Christ always comes first. Christ is always. It's never. I'm just gonna choose Christ now. Yeah. Christ chooses them first. Every single testimony that I've ever heard, Christ chooses them first. So it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Christ-centered instead of self-centered.
Yeah.
Which honestly, that kind of ties in because it feels technically that whole movie is Christ-centered. Actually, it's not. Actually, it's God-centered, and Christ is separate. You know, a man.
What do you mean?
In the movie, they made it a lot about God choosing Jesus.
That's true. Yeah. Shows Jesus lusting to the point of sin. I would argue he was absolutely sinning in that. I believe it's literally Jesus who says, if you look upon a woman in lust, you've committed adultery in your heart. It's like, and Jesus was literally him and Mary Magdalene. They were. Oh yeah. Because at the beginning that.
Yeah, it does biblical that. Jesus says, if you even look upon a woman with intent, you have already committed adultery in your heart. So, him not doing anything physically was technically avoiding temptation in our human minds. It's like, oh well, I didn't touch her.
Yeah, in my mind, he was making it very clear that he wanted her, which is lust. Is it not?
Well, you can want a person.
I don't think he was wanting the person.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Except, though, actually, I think that's interesting because I think he did.
Could be a both.
I think they were together at one point before this calling. That's why she hated him.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Making relationships, therefore, sinful in the minds of these people. Right? When in reality, the reason why Jesus wasn't ever married was because there was simply no need. And because... Oh, man, I totally ruined that. Because his real bride is the church, not a specific woman. People. So there was no need for him to be in a relationship with anyone in real life, in the Bible. So in the movie, though, it's like because he's a man and men get married, it made sense in that regard. But also it doesn't. It mostly doesn't make sense because it's calling a relationship sinful when it isn't.
And there's a lot of just out-of-pocket one-liners that Jesus says, like, my God is fear, Lucifer is inside me. I quoted that.
I don't remember that. When was that?
He's probably talking to Judas or something. I don't remember. It was way at the beginning. It's a 3-hour-long movie.
Yeah, true. I think probably that could have been exaggeration from...
He was probably expressing how sinful David. He is or how he doesn't feel worthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely not a claimation or a proclamation.
Well, in my mind, it goes against who I believe Christ to be.
Oh, yeah.
Which is...
Absolutely.
His God is not fear. God is anything but. Or everything that is the opposite of fear. Courage. Boldness.
Yeah.
And Lucifer is not inside Jesus Christ. Everything has 2 meanings. That was kind of a cool thing that he said, which I believe into a little bit. Maybe not everything. Some things have 2 meanings. That was a really cool line that I thought was cool. I don't remember the context of it in the movie. It could have been when a snake showed up. He was in some like weird dirt hut thing.
Oh, yeah. And that was when he was being purified.
Is that what that was?
Yes. That whole situation was him being purified.
Did he supposedly stop sinning after that?
I think that was the idea. Because afterward, when he came back, that's when he started...
His ministry.
Yeah. No. That's when he got baptized. And then he went out and was tempted.
Oh, went out to the desert. Yeah.
Right. Okay, because in order to... because if you're going from a man to sinless man, in a movie, you have to have a process to get rid of the sin. Right. If you have a man that is without sin already, you don't need to have that. So
true.
They basically did a...
What was the process that they claimed it to be then? Was it a process?
I think it was... I think that there was... Like Jesus mentioned in the movie that that he killed all of God's messiahs before him. All the ones... Because the cross, right? He kept making crosses to crucify these people who were claiming and all this stuff. I think that there were other messiahs, so to speak, that all went through this purification process, and they all died or something. And I think that's interesting. And I honestly, it might be almost cyclical, because if they are claiming to have had a purification camp to create messiahs, and all of them were crucified, and Jesus was simply the next one in line.
Yeah.
It feels cyclical and less meaningful, I guess.
Yeah.
Because why would it be just this one random dude that God picks?
Yeah, we would just have to trust God in that.
Yeah.
But even then, it just defeats the whole point.
Yeah.
That is why Jesus is so amazing.
True.
Because God, in his human form, was able to show us the intended way of life, which is good. Good, sinless.
Yeah.
Super cool. Where am I here? Everything has two meanings, which I think there is a lot of symbolism in this world, more than people think, but that is also my conspiracy theorist mind.
What, that there's
kind of influence in that. The everything has two meanings. I think there's a lot of things in the Bible that have many meanings. They just never contradict, right? They all parallel and complement each other.
Yeah, that's the thing about like Judas hanging himself after Jesus's, or whatever, after he betrays Jesus. Yeah. That being in the Gospels, it is he hung himself, and in, I think it's Acts, he gutted himself into a field. Or rather, he swelled up and gushed out into a field. So, it says that he bought the field and died in it, whereas in the Gospels it says that the priests went and bought a field. So, and that's a whole deal. And I have my thought about how that doesn't contradict. But I don't think that's necessary right now.
Yeah. Okay. Claims that feeling sorry for mankind is enough instead of love in order to go out into that ministry or to follow that calling from God. It was enough to be sorry and just pity man to do it for them instead of doing it out of selfless love.
I think that's because you notice the character shifting over time, and I think that's as technically God is getting into him, right, sort of deal, where he goes from, I only feel pity for them, why does God want me? Turning into love later,
If that's even what it was. Ultimately, he decided to get off the cross.
Well, what love did he have? He didn't ultimately decide to get off the cross. That was a dream sequence.
After a whole lifetime of, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, can you have your cake and eat it too? Jesus says to drop what you're doing and follow him. There's an example somewhere, I believe it's in the Bible. Correct me if I'm wrong, where basically somebody wants to follow him, but they say, "Can I go say bye to my family real quick?" Jesus is just like, no, you
believe it's a tax collector or something.
He's like, let me go say goodbye to my people at home. And Jesus is just like, it'll be too late by then. Which is just a way for us to understand that, there's no reason to wait to follow Christ, right? What are you looking up?
That. I want to make sure we're not twisting things.
Yeah. I don't want to be heretical. The movie's already heretical enough. If you want to be a heretic, just watch the movie. Or listen to our podcast, maybe.
If you want to be heretical, listen to this. What? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Okay. Damn. Luke 14:25 through 27. 14:25. Luke.
14:25.
25.
Ooh.
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 No one says anything in this. It says, if anyone comes to me and does not take his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, does not hate his own mother and his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. I don't know the example. I think the example was not, can I say goodbye to my family, but
maybe it was a different thing.
It was
either way. I
think you mix those two things. It was, will you get rid of all your possessions? Because it was like a rich guy. And he was like, oh, no.
Or maybe I just got it from some analogy from back in my childhood, and it's just stuck with me.
Maybe.
Kind of like
I would err on the side of, since we couldn't find that directly.
Sure. Okay.
Like the idea, Jesus saying,
it's kind of like the analogy of the boat, where imagine you're a man in a flood, or I guess not maybe you, but there's a man in a flood. He's on his rooftop, and has no way to escape. And he's praying to God for help, and a boat comes along.
Oh. You might have been right.
Ayo?
Luke 9:61.
I'm not a heretic yet, as far as I know.
No one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God.
Wait, read that again, loudly.
Still another said, I will follow you, Lord, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family.
Oh, there you go.
Jesus replied, no one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God.
So where is that?
That's Luke 9:61 and 62, I think. Or maybe just the one.
Yeah. So the kind of idea that then Christ would be able to get off the cross and go live a life and get what he wanted, what sacrifice is in that?
Yeah, Luke 9:61 through 62. So that is that's why I think it's the last temptation. No, I know it's the last temptation of Christ was to not follow God's will, but to follow his own, which was to live and have a life on earth.
Yeah.
Feels
like it's a little too late though when you're already on the cross like that.
Well, because like it's the crowd were like, if you were the Son of God, have your angels take you down. Right. Which is what the movie showed, was an angel taking him off the cross and showing him this new life. And he said, you're not the Messiah. It's okay. You've done enough. Which actually I think toward the end of the movie, I got this impression that this is what would have happened almost if Jesus was simply a man possessed by God. Because I did actually like the dream sequence where he was showed this life that he could have had, right? Because, like, in the end, he didn't choose that. He could have still, and he didn't choose it.
Well,
right?
I disagree, because he literally lived all the way up till he was literally dying because of his age.
I think that was all a vision more than
more than him actually experiencing day by day?
No, I don't think so.
Oh. That's how I took it, day by day.
It could have been, but I don't think, because it's like, well, now it doesn't count. He did it. It's like, no.
That's what I was kind of saying, how you can't have your cake and eat it too, or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like, it doesn't make sense why.
It's like he got to experience all that. He got to bang like 3 different women. All in a dream. No, I think it was a vision more than it was actually happened. And then he was like, all right, cool. Now take me. I don't think that was the case. I think that was the whole purpose of that, being the last temptation of Christ.
Well, what temptation is in it if it's not him living it day by day?
The temptation was that even still after that vision, he could have.
No, well, how could he have? He was on the cross dying. He's being crucified. He would have to be retaken off again. So then he can go live.
He'd have to literally be taken off the cross.
Yeah.
That vision was not a literal, that didn't happen.
Well, right.
So after having seen that vision, and seeing what would have happened, which was that he had created this false world, this is what would have happened if you did that. He opens up and he's like, all right, that's it. It is finished. It is accomplished.
Yeah.
I don't like the usage of that word. He says it twice. He says, it is accomplished. Yeah.
And then dies.
Yeah.
And then the movie gives you an epilepsy with no warning.
Yeah, the intermission sequence from Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
I haven't seen that movie in a fat minute.
You need to, when you go and edit this, you need to find that, because that is exactly, I'll show it actually to you afterward, but you need to, it's got to show up, because it looks exactly like that ending deal, almost. It's pretty funny. Anyway, continue. Fourth, my brother.
Oh, okay. What's up? What's next?
What's up? Well, see. I
wrote down, ask Dylan about Jesus being all-knowing, because I remember you had something that you wanted to talk about with that.
So I'd noticed that, a lot toward the beginning, and I think the real intent of it is that it's a possession from, by God. That Jesus was possessed by God, because in the movie.
Yeah,
obviously.
Jesus,
Yeah. I'm not going to start saying Jesus. It's harder to say.
All right.
I think the intent is that is how the story went, that it was Jesus being possessed by God, which is immediately heretical from the get-go, right? And a lot of it was done poorly, because it was based off of a German philosopher's mind and not off of a biblical scholar's mind, or just even a Christian's mind.
Or God.
Yeah. Right.
Who wrote it?
Jeez Louise. Jeez, what are you doing? Justin's texting me. My apologies.
It's another emergency.
Yeah, right, dude. Oh my gosh. Hold on, give me a second. He's actually texting me a bunch. Now I'm...
It's fine, we'll just edit this out. I know what we were talking about.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm busy. Idiot. Okay, done. Completed. Anyway.
All-knowing.
Yes. So I think that because this was a Jesus being possessed by God thing, that he was a man that could not be all-knowing. He's, just a man.
He was just as sinful as the rest of us.
Yeah.
Literally could have been you or I.
Yeah. And over time, he later became, through that possession.
All-knowing.
Technically, yeah.
Would he have been all-knowing, or maybe that was kind of part of the vision? Because if he was all-knowing, he wouldn't have needed the vision to see that other life.
Well, I don't think the vision was showed to him. I think it could have been his own vision, knowing. I don't know. But also that I think that the whole movie reminds us of the question of, was Jesus all-knowing,
If Jesus is all-knowing,
I think that he could not have been all-knowing in the way that he was depicted in the film.
Real Jesus speaking, if he was all-knowing, do you think he would have gone to God in the garden to ask for that cup to be removed from him? Or
all-knowing and being the same person is two different things. Because Jesus had a relationship to the Father, the Son. You've seen that triangle, right? The four. Have you seen it? The Trinity?
I mean, I know about the Trinity.
So it's...
You can make a triangle, just like God the Father.
So Father, Son, Holy Spirit, in no particular, it can be whatever. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, lines going to each one. Each line is not. So the Son is not the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit is not the Father. Father is not the Son. But in the middle is another circle. It's God. and each one has a line going to it, being Jesus is God, Father is God, Holy Spirit is God. So that's the idea, right? They all have a relationship, hence why it says we ought to make man in our image.
Yeah.
And God created him, or he created them, is what he said. Or he created him. So using both of those plural and singular pronouns in, I hate that word now, the stigma behind the word pronoun, but using those in the Old Testament is indicative of the Trinity already in this community aspect. So Jesus talking to the Father in that he did that every day, being in community, like I imagine that's exactly what heaven would have been like, in the same space as each other, communicating. But now he's on earth, so he's not going to go up there and chat with God. He's down here talking to him. And he's like, if there be any other way, I think is such an interesting thing. Because I think that's like where a lot of Mormons try to detract from the Trinity. Yeah. And make Jesus less, right? But I think in the very fact, the sacrifice to be man sacrifices that authority over the process of sanctification.
I really like what you just said there, the idea that there is no other way, where Jesus even asking him for that and how it wasn't done. It's like the only way that God could have ever justified us is through Jesus Christ on the cross. That is the only way. Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah. That's the way it went. It needed to happen that way. And being the man that he was, Jesus, not wanting to die is a pretty simple, like, he's a man as much as we are.
Jesus. Yeah.
No, Jesus.
Yeah, this is getting confusing.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I did the whatever. Jesus was a man just as much as we are. Yeah. Not wanting to die is it sucks.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Being concerned and being, I don't really want to, but not my own, but your will be done. Yeah. Right? That submission to the Father is how we ought to be every single day. And I think, honestly, sometimes I read that as Jesus said this less to show he was less than the Father, but more to show us how we ought to speak to the Father. Right? To be Christ-like is to do it as Christ did. So I think that, because if he never spoke to the Father at all, it feels less genuine. It feels like he's less man. Yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't need to speak to him.
It's like, why do we have to pray and you don't?
Right. Absolutely.
You're a man.
Yeah.
I'm a man. In The Chosen, there are like multiple times where Jesus is like, all right, remember at least one time where one of his disciples or someone is talking to him and they're like, I'm only human. And he says, me too. Because he is only human and only God, right? So it's bizarre. But you have to remember he was a man as much as we are. But more.
Yeah, cool. So, moving on down the page here.
I like that we're on the first page still.
Yeah.
We'll get there. We'll speed through it. We don't have to. I'm not in a rush. I could be, though.
Simon's name was Peter?
Oh, yeah, that was just annoying. Yeah. Simon, Peter, being Peter from the beginning, didn't even, cover that at all.
Excuse me. Jesus made the claim everything is a part of God, which is interesting. I don't know if I fully disagree with it or not. Everything being a part of God, I think that's why there was a scene after the crucifixion where it was after Mary Magdalene died with his child in her womb, after God just sun blasted her. He grabbed his axe and went out and just in anger started hitting the earth.
Yeah.
And I thought I thought back then to when he said everything is a part of God, and he went in to describe. It may have been Judas who was questioning him, and he went in to say how even in an ant's eye you see the face of God. So it's like
it's taking general revelation and turning it into more of a Middle Eastern false interpretation, right? Because there are other religions that go off of the idea that everything in nature is God.
Yeah.
Instead of everything in nature being evidence of God.
Yeah.
General revelation is...
Yeah.
There's general revelation and special revelation. Special revelation is pretty much God being expressly... Like your testimony is... That's pretty much special revelation, right? General revelation is seeing the earth and going, there's got to be. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Like all of the native tribes in the United States, right?
Shout out.
They were all given general revelation because they saw the world and were like, there must be a God.
Yeah.
So.
Coyote God.
They didn't know who because they didn't have that information. Which is, you know.
That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing.
Wow, that'd be fun to study.
It's why the Catholics believe in purgatory.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, it's definitely part of it.
You mentioned a few times some Catholic influence on this. The baptism, John the Baptist baptizing Jesus, he just kind of...
He just picked up some water and put it on Jesus' head. And
yeah. I don't know. That makes me question then, like, why do we think our way of baptism is the correct way? Is there a correct way, or is it then still just all symbolic of it? Of the being reborn? You know, how did they actually baptize back in the day?
Probably the way that they still do it in Israel.
How do they do it in Israel?
Dunk.
Oh, okay. Not like the Catholics?
No.
Oh. All right.
The Catholic,
yeah,
that's
sense.
infant baptism. They believe in infant baptism. That's why they do the sprinkling.
Do they do that to adults too, or do they also do the dunking?
I think they also dunk babies sometimes. It's really give and take. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not fully dunk babies is awesome. You remember that the like old
do a 3-pointer?
the where's the money, Lebowski? And he's like dunking a.
I don't know what you're talking about, dude.
It was
what?
It was like a.
You're dunking babies over here?
Vine, like funniest Vine compilation from years ago, where it was where's the money? You know, Lebowski from the Big Lebowski. You know that movie? No.
Sounds familiar.
But it's a Catholic priest dunking a baby into the water, and the baby's like, "Oh, let me take another look." Never mind. You'll find it later.
Oh, yeah.
This
now
sucks.
that you've said it, it'll just show up. And I'll be like, that's what Dylan was talking about.
Yeah.
Kind of how it tends to go. But yeah, so basically, I believe nature, you could see God in it, but that doesn't mean that it is God. So, yeah.
You can see God's hand in making it.
Yeah.
You won't look at a tree and go, God?
Yeah. Yeah. But you can see his beauty and his art and his
saying you can see God
brains.
In nature, I think comes with if you say that to the wrong person, they will interpret it the wrong way.
Yeah, you're right. You got to be pretty clear about that.
Yeah, you can see God's hand. God, like in order to appreciate,
you could see his creativity and all of it. You could see his power in it.
In order to appreciate a painting, you have to acknowledge the artist.
There you go.
So,
drop the mic.
You don't look at the painting and go, Van Gogh? No, that's stupid thinking. It's actually terrible.
Judas and Jesus had an argument where Judas claimed that the body is the foundation instead of the soul. Oh, yeah. Which was kind of interesting. That's probably just Jesus' character development.
Well, yeah, because
Jesus said, and he's like, actually,
Jesus,
you're wrong.
I have to say Jesus because this retard. Jesus.
You can call him any other name.
Yeah, well, you got totally confused earlier when
it was confusing.
Yeah, so I'll just stick with Jesus, I guess.
Okay.
Jesus. It sucks.
Or you could say movie Jesus.
Movie Jesus. There we go. I like that.
Okay, cool.
I hate saying Jesus. I have no reason to. I'm pretty sure it's Jesus also, and not Jesus.
Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Jesus.
It does not matter.
It does. It matters to me. Movie Jesus.
Okay.
Willem. There we go. Defoe.
Yeah, I'll call him Willem.
Yeah, Willem is funny. He says, or Judas tells him, he's like, the body is the foundation and the soul is built on top of it or whatever. And that's just, what do you mean? That doesn't make sense. And then Willem is like, yeah, no. The soul is the foundation. It goes inside out, because they were discussing like whether to trample Rome or to fix the hearts of man, which I think is honestly a good conversation in that, because we do still nowadays, as the Jews are still waiting for a Messiah to come, they believe that it is the body is the foundation first, right? They were waiting for a political Messiah, and not the Messiah. They already missed him. Doesn't that suck?
That does suck, dude.
Imagine being Jewish. I hate the way I said that. Cut that out.
No, dude.
Oh, damn it.
Wait, why? Why is that bad?
I made a face at the camera like I was.
Are we not allowed to make Jews towards Jewish people? What did I just say? Are we not allowed to make jokes towards Jewish people?
I think that
if I can make jokes about white people, why can't I make jokes about Jewish people?
I think for this episode, you need to have coming up be both of us.
Okay, yeah, deal. Because yeah,
I think
you're not
honestly,
the focus.
I think
as
most.
The guest right
I
now.
think the next one that we do together, or the lumberjack one, Moscow Mountain, should also be you and me.
Yeah, deal.
Makes more sense.
It's much more you and I rather than just you're the guest. Like you're not a guest. Yeah.
I'm not. I wasn't invited. I'm here by.
This was your idea, actually.
It was.
You said let's do this. I went okay.
Yeah.
If anything, I'm the guest.
3-parter.
Introduce me.
This is Joe.
No, don't.
Oh, okay.
So
stepdad called him Joseph yesterday. It was hot.
You did?
Yeah, he said Joseph.
Oh yeah. I thought you said that you did.
No,
you didn't. Yeah.
I joked that it was Joseph, and Scott rolled with it. He was like, Joseph, put her there.
So back to the heretical movie.
Yeah.
Again, I just wrote down when I was trying to figure it out as I was watching, if it wasn't obvious enough from the beginning. But Jesus seems to be a sinful human that God is using or chosen.
Yeah, and purified.
Yeah, I didn't realize the purified part. I was confused about that whole scene.
There was a character that says, "You've been purified."
Oh yeah, that went way over me. Yeah. I was probably writing something.
Yeah.
An apple tree or some sort of tree, I think it was an apple tree, was pretty. It was used a few times throughout the movie. The first time, he was just sitting there eating an apple. He threw some seeds. Then it like panned back to him, panned back to where he threw the seeds, and it was an apple tree. That was it.
Yeah, that was directly after the Sermon on the Mount that he did, where he talks about the parable of the sower and delivers it wrong. He says,
he did. Yeah.
Like entirely. He says a farmer throws seeds onto, I think it was rocks, onto the ground, and birds come by and eat it. Then he throws it on rocks and they dry up. And then he throws it on rich soil and it turns into a big tree or something. I don't know. When in reality, Jesus says, sower sows seeds onto the rocks, and the seed, nothing grew. And then onto dirt or onto good soil, but there were thorns around it. So when it grew, it was choked out, and then there was the good soil. So that's just an entire poor delivery, and that reminds me of the other poor delivery about the temple. But we'll get to that one, I guess.
Will we? I don't know. We'll see. I didn't write down the entire movie. If you're thinking about it, let's just talk about it.
Oh, yeah. All right. So not only was the parable of the sower delivered wrong, but in the initial cleansing of the temple, because I think there were two. Yeah, in the movie there were two examples of Jesus or Willem cleansing the temple, casting out all the people in it. The first time he said, I will tear down this temple in 3 days. In the movie. That's what he said.
Yeah.
In 3 days, I will tear down this temple. When in the Bible, Jesus says, tear down this temple, and in 3 days, I will raise it up. And they're like, this building took decades to make.
Actually?
Yeah, no, I don't think you could do that, carpenter. No, it was it's in direct reference to the resurrection.
Absolutely.
And in the movie, they just totally threw that away. I thought that was that was the most like Satan twisting of words, you know? Satan twists words.
Like, I think while we were watching the movie, you were looking it up, that it's made by a Greek philosopher, at least the book.
The book was written
like,
by a
what
Greek
a Satan
philosopher.
worshiper. And I remember you were like,
Yeah.
I don't know about that. And I'm like,
I remember I remember Satan being Greek. That's what you said.
Yeah.
I said Lucifer.
Here's the thing. The best lie is a half-truth. If Satan can put out a false gospel like that, you know, it definitely takes the power out of the name of Jesus Christ. Well, I mean, it doesn't, but it to people's feeble minds, it can.
Yeah. Because I know a lot of people. I don't know a lot of people, but I know that there are a lot of people who believe that Jesus was just a dude.
Yeah.
Possessed by God or not even at all.
So it's kind of like the idea how most of the religions around the world take an aspect from the Bible and exemplify it and make it into a whole thing.
Yeah.
And so it's taking a half-truth and making it the full truth. It's taking a truth from the Bible and taking Jesus out of it, pretty much. Or at least, taking out the part that Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life. Or whatever.
No one gets to the Father except through me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's that movie then, in my mind, is just a mockery of the Gospels and what Jesus actually did for us, which is withstand all those temptations and not sin. He didn't need to be purified because he was never tainted.
Yeah.
Right? So as far as I'm concerned, it's a mockery and an attempt to deceive.
Yeah. I think that given that we haven't read the book,
so true,
we don't know what the original
That's fair.
writing of the book was. This was an interpretation of a book.
Yeah, we're 3 interpretations down the line at this point.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I think it's a second interpretation. So I think the original book
Unless
could
the
have...
first would it have been reading the Bible, book,
Dude interprets...
movie?
Dude interprets the interpretation. It's 2 interpretations. It's whatever. It's the third voice, second interpretation.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I think that in the book it could have been better. I understand what it would have been. I think in the book is that it would be talking about because Jesus did, as a man, experience temptation. He did, you know. It directly references when he was out in the desert, right? Going through those 3 trials. Whether or not that was the end of it, we don't know. Probably not.
Ooh.
William.
Yo, what's up?
Oh.
Hello. You want to say hi to the camera?
Shake your...
Okay, that works.
I got 2 more passes
What does that mean?
before I shake it for the camera.
Oh, okay. You're counting down
He's counting down.
before he blesses our audience.
2 more passes. Oh, he's done. Okay. What was I saying?
I don't remember.
That sucks.
That does suck.
Oh, right. So I think that in the book, as Jesus was a man, he most likely experienced the same amount of temptation that we do, right? Being a man.
If not more.
If not more, right? Dealing with Satan being like, you could have the world.
I've never spent 40 days in a desert, no food, no water, you know?
Yeah. Which
Maybe.
Also in the movie, he tried eating an apple. I think it was at the end of the 40 days, and it just gushed into blood coming out of his mouth, which was weird. But
that was weird.
I don't have a thought about that. It looked pretty sick, though. I thought it looked sick.
Sick in a good way? I thought it looked sick in a bad way.
Well, yeah, if you take out the heresy, it looked cool.
Yeah, okay, sure, dude.
So
sure.
you can appreciate art and go, that artist was Hitler? What?
The art. Have you seen Hitler's work, dude?
Well, you got kicked out of the art school for a reason.
It looked good, dude. It looked good.
All right, anyway.
His art was incredible. Something I can't do, for sure.
You should put up a bunch of those.
It's not modern art, dude.
You should put up...
Just Hitler's art pieces on my wall.
Yeah, and then people are like, oh, who made it? And you're like, you don't want to know.
That's such a funny idea.
Some guy from the 40s. Or
Adolf.
early... some A dude.
Yeah.
I forget his name. Andrew.
Joseph's friend. Stalin's friend.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, some Joe.
It's an intellectual joke. You wouldn't get it.
You wouldn't get it. You'd have to. But I think that in the book, it could have been more about confronting the different temptations that Jesus could have gone through as a man, right? Being that he was around prostitutes and all these people, you know. Experiencing that temptation and following through on it. The temptation is not the sin. Following through on it is.
Yeah.
So I think that if the book was that, it has merit in simply making that conversation available.
Yeah.
Right? Thinking about, okay, you know, and then the last temptation being probably the biggest one, right at the end, someone saying, why don't you have your angels take you down? That was the last temptation before, you know, he chose not to.
Yeah. In the midst of the pain.
Yeah. In the literally, and the crucifixion done very poorly. Every example of the crucifixion is done wrong. The way crucifixion works, do you know how it works?
Tell me.
And I've seen, so you're nailed by the wrists, which they did get right, I think. Wrists and ankles.
Yeah, they did
right, because if you put it through the hands, it's just going to go through. It's not going to work. Like there's more meat.
Put it between the bones.
Yeah. In the wrists and in the ankles. And that is all. It's not rope. Maybe there's rope, but you're held up by those nails.
Yeah.
And you are in such a position that you are dangling, you know, to where you cannot breathe physically with the way your body is hanging, you know. Mm-hmm. So you have to push up with your feet and pull down with your hands in order to breathe in. And then you go down and you can't breathe. Mm-hmm. You breathe, right? So it's this up and down motion until you essentially suffocate or run out of you run out of energy to push yourself up because you're just hanging up there for hours.
Yeah.
You're there all day. And people are like, this is entertaining. And then they cast lots for his jacket.
Yeah, they're throwing tomatoes.
Yeah, dude. Did they have tomatoes back then?
I don't know.
Whatever. But that is the process.
Sure, Rome.
What they do is if you're not dead by a certain point in the day, they break your legs so you can't push up anymore. It's actually...
Which is when they speared Christ.
Right. So it says in one of the prophecies...
Because none of his bones would have been broken.
In one of the prophecies, it does say not a bone would be broken. Mm-hmm. In fact, one time in one of my Bible classes, the teacher said, and that's how they got him. And I was like, no.
And that's how they got him what?
Like, they broke his legs. Like, the teacher...
And that's how they got him.
Well, that's not what she said, but like she said... that's how they did it to him. Because in the prophecies it does say his legs, no, not his legs, but not a bone in his body would be broken. Mm-hmm. Which I think that there's like some spiritual aspect to that, like the backbone of Christ was God. You know?
Yeah.
Like metaphorically.
Yeah, there's another meaning in all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's symbolism.
But
kind of mumbled that.
Not a bone in his body would be broken. My teacher was like, "You're right, Dylan. They didn't get him like that. They speared him in the side." So before they broke his legs, one of the guys goes, "Hey, wait a minute. He looks like he's dead already." And they stab him in the side, and water comes out because in that process, I think his heart exploded, and so water came out.
Yeah.
Which is such an insane thought that Jesus died of a broken heart. Oh.
Insane.
Oh. It's so wonderful. Well, it sucks, but it's so...
Why have you forsaken me, dude?
Yeah, dude, died of a broken heart.
Gosh.
The weight of the world. People hate him.
Oh, man. And he deserves none of it.
He deserves none of it. And
none of it.
He was like, if there be another way, which I think is interesting. Like, Jesus wants to save us. Like, he wanted to save us. That was the goal of being...
It's his love.
Yes. But it was not like going, if there's, any other way that we can do this, but not my own, your will be done, I think is like the human reaction to, I don't really want to die that way. That sucks.
Yeah.
But
I mean, especially
your will be done.
He
knows that there has to be some sort of sacrifice, and he knows that it's probably going to be him, and he knows that it is, but it's like at the very end, like, hey, God, can we back out? Like,
I think there's even the aspect of it's easier said than done. He knew that it was happening. He's spoken to his disciples and kind of hinted towards it, right?
Yeah, he even says it bluntly, and they just don't understand.
Yeah. So he knows it. It's just when it's coming to the time and he knows it,
it's like
experience. He knows what pain he's about to go through, and he knows that he's going to be, God's going to turn his back, in the sense of taking all that sin upon him. Yeah. That's obviously something that would scare you.
Yeah. As a man, scares me. You got some...
Do I?
Yeah.
This side?
You got it. Yeah. Sometimes when I do that, like, it was your right eyebrow, so I did my right. Some people go, oh, really? And then they do the mirror, so their left one.
Oh.
Yeah. Because I do, you go, and they go, oh.
You did your right. I went, okay. Yeah. And then, anyways.
That was awesome.
That was cool.
I'm going to fornicate with Joe.
So wait, what did the apple trees mean in the Jesus movie?
I think that was more so just in reference to he was talking about the parable of the sower, and he said, guys, I'm the farmer. Don't you get it? You guys are the rocks.
Which also doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, that whole parable of the sower thing was entirely wrong.
It doesn't.
It was so poorly interpreted. Because it was interpreted by Martin Scorsese, like a dude who isn't a believer. Or at least wasn't. I think he might be Catholic now. I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
Why would you make a movie like that if you're not a believer? Were any of the actors believers?
I don't know. Willem, I don't believe. Maybe he is.
I don't think he's ever claimed to be a believer. Not that I've ever been aware of, at least. You're good. Yeah, do whatever you want, dude.
All right.
You're big chillin'. For the audience context, Sir William's in the kitchen. John the Baptist.
Yeah.
The first time we see him, I didn't realize it was John the Baptist because
I didn't realize either.
Wicked cult. There's like naked women dancing and people losing their mind. It reminded me of like a.
It was like
an extremely charismatic Pentecostal Holy Spirit moment where
honestly,
people are just like literally having seizures and running around as if God is like entering them. It's very chaotic, and it definitely did not scream Jesus to me, if that makes sense.
No, it didn't.
Or the love of God. And then Jesus walks up to him.
Yeah.
And is just straight up. I don't know, how did that go? He almost was
Jesus,
questioning
so
him, if I remember right.
Willem in the film goes, he doesn't know if he's the Messiah, so he goes up to John,
right,
who has been talking about a Messiah, and it's like, John, he'll know if I'm the Messiah, because in the Bible it says, here's the Lamb of God who comes to save the world, and I think that was it, most of it. But in this, he was like, who are you? Jesus is like, do you recognize me? Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's all built off of this idea that Jesus Willem, is a man possessed by God.
Yeah.
So
chosen by God to
and then you have to fit that narrative into this world where it's like, okay, this weird Baptist named John who like talks about a Messiah all the time. I figured out partway through this movie that if you took all of the like Jesus casted people out of the temple because they were selling stuff, he hung out with sinners and like all like if you just used separate like the story like about when he turned water into wine.
Yeah.
It was as simple as like if you had told someone, oh yeah, in the Bible it says that Jesus turned water into wine. He's like, cool, and he ran with it. Where it was like almost like Willem's character goes like, yeah, it's wine.
It's wine now. Go check.
Yeah, and So it's all, a lot of it is a gross misinterpretation based off of like it's from the mind of a movie director from Hollywood.
Yeah.
Trying to make the Bible seem cool in a way.
Then John the Baptist pretty much sends Jesus or Willem, into the desert, probably on a mission to see if he is the Messiah or not, kind of thing. And so Jesus then walks into the desert, draws a circle around him, a perfect circle.
Yeah, that was a perfect circle.
Incredible perfect circle.
Yeah, best part of the movie.
Yeah. I went, wow, that's satisfying. Sits down in the middle of the circle. I believe then the snake is the first one to appear.
Yeah, there's a snake.
There's like 3 trials that he goes through. A snake,
a lion, and a plume of fire.
Yeah.
In the Bible, when people cried or said to Jesus, "Why don't you have your angels take you down off the cross?" You know, that moment, that is essentially the entire premise of the end of the movie. Because it's about technically that's the last temptation of Christ, where he could have been like, "Yeah," but he didn't, and so this whole ending sequence features like he was taken off the cross by a guardian angel, and he led this whole life. Yeah. And it turned out at the end, the very end, that guardian angel was the fire, and it was like, well, I told you we'd meet again. And it turned out to be just a vision, and then Jesus was on the cross still, and then he dies. So they took that moment where it's, why don't you have your angels take you off the cross, and turn it into a whole sequence that was really interesting. I thought it was really interesting.
It was.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it'll be fine.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
So we were at the desert with the 3 different things. The snake was interesting because it had a woman's voice both times it was on screen.
Yeah. Pretty sure it was the same voice as Mary Magdalene.
Yep. I don't remember what the temptations were between the 3 of them.
I know one was lust, I think, because the serpent was like, look at my breasts, and then it exploded.
Yeah, and the serpent didn't even have breasts. Anyways, that's such a...
It was interesting. It's probably the thought of lust.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool. Look at my breasts. He would have seen them before. And if he had thought about them.
Well, earlier in the movie, he saw them.
Yeah. But I think seeing them and lusting after them.
2 different things for sure.
Yeah, because I look at a pair daily. No, mine.
That's the same. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Your moobs?
Dude, come on. I do look huge in this shirt, by the way. It's awesome.
Okay. Then at the end, when the fire disappeared, it turned into an apple tree, I believe. So that's the second time we saw the apple tree. And then he actually grabs an axe and starts chopping it. He doesn't chop it down. He just starts chopping it, and then it transferred scene. Don't know what that meant.
He tried eating an apple from it, and it turned into blood in his mouth, and then he found an axe on the ground and then chopped it down.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of symbolism there. It's
John
gone over my head.
So there were 3 things, really. Jesus, Jesus, whatever, is proclaiming love, and then John the Baptist proclaims an axe, right? Whereas I think it's a misinterpretation of Jesus saying, I do not come to bring peace, I come with a sword, right? And being like, that's a contradiction in the Bible, instead of it being, the sword is the sword of the Spirit, the word of God, right? To end sin in the world, there needs to be a spiritual war, right? Instead of, I think in the movie, they misinterpreted it as him not knowing what was going on. Going like, God wanted me to be talking about love, and now I'm talking about an axe, bringing, a fight and all that. And at one point, the second time when he cleanses the temple after he's ushered in to Jerusalem on the donkey, he says, I hope that one of these rioters will just kill me now instead of being crucified, because he knew he had to be crucified later. But he was like, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
God, why can't it just be one of these guys that takes me out? Because he wasn't ready to be crucified,
What if Jesus actually had that thought?
Well, he did in the garden. Yeah. If there be any other way.
Yeah, we were talking about that. The going back to the snake, I believe this is something that the snake said halfway.
Okay, good.
Scripture doesn't want you to fast and pray. It wants you to make children. Was that from the snake or was that from after that? Because that note comes from after he chopped down the tree with the blood. So
I think that might have been the guardian angel, I think. Or maybe, no, it was...
Because this is in between.
It was the women.
Three temptations.
I think it was Mary and Martha or something, talking about wanting to make children. And then later on in the movie, in the vision, they did bang Jesus.
They did, and made children.
Yeah,
so.
They made kids.
Yeah, it just goes into Jesus' desires, Willem's desires in that moment. Then it just cuts to this wild scene where he's back with John the Baptist, and he is almost taking off his shirt a little bit, or pulling it open.
He pulls his heart out of his chest.
Actual heart out. It's not a bloody apple or anything. It's a heart.
No, he dug into his.
And then he calls them to war.
Yeah.
He pulls out his heart and is almost handing it to his disciples, and he calls them to war, to follow him into war. Crazy.
Which
scene.
I think is another misinterpretation of, obviously something. I'm sure there's something that references Jesus.
It's a wild
heart.
scene,
but
it's like more fire.
More than anything, I think it's about Jesus, or the character, or the misinterpretation and thinking that there's a contradiction in that Jesus calling us to war. He means spiritual warfare with evil and not war with Rome, you know? And I remember there was a point where some of the disciples, or maybe it was Judas, was like, why do we have all these, all of his followers, or all these people that were following him were all disabled and crippled. And he was like, these men aren't an army. They're all fouled up. And Willem goes, if God deems it so, he'll give me better ones, which I thought was crazy. Because I think in that moment, he didn't know if he was going to physical war or spiritual war. And that's just because the movie was written by a man who isn't a believer, which I think always is so interesting. In movies, if the movie is made by a non-believer, that world does not have God.
And you can see it.
Yeah, you see it because it's like, this is dismal. This sucks because God doesn't exist in that world. You can do anything.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. Like A Quiet Place, definitely not written by a believer. That's terrible. This movie, obviously not written by a believer. And you, for sure, I think now he might be Catholic. It was Martin Scorsese, whatever. He might be Catholic now, which, but,
Jumping down my notes here, past some things that we just kind of touched on willy-nilly, just randomly, just through filling in context and stuff. Brings us down to, I had it, Lazarus. Yeah, Lazarus.
Lazarus.
So basically, you brought up the point as we were watching it that Jesus was not crying.
Jesus didn't cry.
Not at all.
Not at all. Which
I believe in Scripture it states that he did.
Yeah, and in Scripture, Lazarus was Jesus' friend. I think, Lazarus was in Nazareth, like that. They grew up together. I think is the idea, in the Bible. And so when he found that Lazarus was dead, he cried. It says Jesus wept. Shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. And so in the movie, Lazarus was a nobody. There were people crying, and he's like, why are people crying? They're like, he's been dead for 3 days. And he just goes, Lazarus. He stands at the opening of the tomb for way too long, He has
to repeat his words too, as if
they
don't have enough power.
Yeah. Or maybe it was just, it was taking a long time and Jesus didn't know
Either
that.
then he didn't have enough patience just to wait. He
didn't
have the faith in his words.
It didn't work?
Yeah.
I got to keep
doing this? He had to repeat it.
Yeah.
Interesting sequence. Then we proceed to never see Lazarus again.
Oh, no, we did. Because he talked about the zealots showed up and they asked him what was better, death or life. And he said, I felt no difference between the two.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They stabbed him in the stomach.
That's right.
They re-killed Lazarus.
Which is an insane thing to say. it's still a meaningful statement from somebody who has supposedly experienced life and death, especially in a movie depicting Christianity in that way, where we do believe that the afterlife is more than here, at least better, right? So him saying that it's no different, in fact he was surprised to see that it wasn't different, is shocking to me, or confusing.
I have to wonder if those temporary deaths, because it's not like, God's sitting up there waiting at the gates and then somebody pops up when they die and he's like, oh, great. And then if they get resuscitated, they go back down. It's like God plans exactly for when you're supposed to come home, and or not home, but when you're supposed to be done. And I think that there are a lot of examples of people who have been dead for a certain amount of time, and then they come back and they're like, yeah, I felt like I was underwater or something. And it's like interesting, because I don't think God would be super explicit and be like, hey, welcome home. Oh, all right. It wouldn't be like that. It would definitely be like, they got him. They got him. He's back. It would be more deliberate, I think that movie Heaven is for Real, where a kid... Do you know that movie? It's based off of a true story where this kid died in the hospital for 5 minutes. And in those 5 minutes, he was in a place that looked like his home, but it was all real white. And he saw a man. And he thought he believed it was Jesus, And he experienced this whole, days of time, or this whole passage of time with Jesus. And then there was a girl across the world who had a vision and painted Jesus. And the kid saw, on the other side, the kid who died, saw the painting and was like, that's the man I saw.
Oh, wow. So there you go.
And that's allegedly based on, real life, that actually happened. I don't think adults, there's a reason why I was a child. It's harder to believe a child, but you need to have childlike faith.
I think I'd believe a child more.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, because as believers, we're like, we understand that wisdom does not come with age. Wisdom comes as God gives it. I read that the other day. I don't remember where. So I think it was in Job. Right, it was Job, because Elihu says he was the youngest of the friends. He was the fourth friend. He was like, I am not as old as you guys, and he absolutely called out everyone because he was delivering through God used him in that moment to rebuke Job and the three friends.
Yeah.
And he says, wisdom does not come with age. Absolutely right. So we understand that, but the rest of the world doesn't. So being a child, it's like, as believers, we're like, that kid's awesome. He's seen God. And we're like, or the rest of the world doesn't really agree. Anyway, this is just a play on, that was all off of Lazarus dying and then being brought back and then dying again.
Jesus, or Jesus, or Willem, whatever we want to call him, he then rides into the town with the donkey, Jerusalem, right?
I was waiting for him to not, because we never saw anyone get the donkey.
Yeah.
He was just on it. So
yeah, they skipped over that. And then they start tearing through the town and just destroying everything, which I don't remember that happening after he got on the donkey.
No, he paraded into the town, into the temple, and then he cleansed the temple a second time.
Is that biblical?
The two cleansings of the temple? I'm fairly certain it is. I looked it up, and it looks like there's one at the beginning of Matthew and one at the end, which would be toward the end after he rides into Jerusalem.
Whoever's listening to this, double check that for us.
Will, double check that. Do you have your phone?
I do not.
You can figure that out. Crazy. You are I guess he's 21. That sucks that he's 21 and I'm not.
So
life.
After that, though, after he destroys the whole marketplace, he stands there. I believe he says something to Judas about hoping that this is what God wants, and then his.
I think that was an internal monologue. Maybe he said it to Judas, but he wanted that someone to kill him with an axe.
Yeah, and then his hands begin to bleed after not wanting to. He was hoping that that's what God wanted for him, to conquer Jerusalem.
Or it would be another way.
Yeah, and then his hands where the nails would be.
They started.
It was
bleeding.
in the hands instead of the wrist, right?
Yeah,
they start bleeding.
I think that was
Yeah,
it's
symbolic.
Whatever.
That's what it is.
Doesn't matter. And they bled from it.
And then so he bled from it, and that was probably his answer.
It was like, all right, no, there is no other way.
Yeah.
2 times.
2 times. Cool. So it is biblical then.
Okay.
Cool. Good.
Was it immediately after he rode into Jerusalem? The second cleansing? Because the way they did in the movie, he literally got off the donkey, walked a few steps, and destroyed the market again. All right. Get back to us on that.
And then, Judas and Jesus, Willem, and Judas, they have this intimate moment of Judas not wanting to betray Jesus and Jesus allowing him to
saying
betray
you
him.
have to.
Saying you have to.
Because at the beginning of the movie, since Judas was there all along, the zealots, Judas was a zealot in this movie, even though I don't think he was in real life, said that the zealots want to kill you for some reason. I think it's because he might have claimed to be the Messiah, but whatever. No, they wanted to kill him because he was killing Jews or making the crosses. That's why they wanted him dead. And then it went further than that. The zealots they're a radical group of Jews that just did things, So that would be why they wanted Jesus dead, if he was making these crosses for people to be hung on. So that was why he needed to be dead. And then Judas couldn't kill him the first time. And he was like, God didn't send you here to kill me. He sent you here to follow me. Mm-hmm. And they went through the whole thing. And he said, if I ever fall away from the path, kill me. And so in Judas's mind, he did fall away from the path because Judas was expecting a political Messiah.
Yeah.
When Jesus, at the time, he was like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be, what kind of Messiah I'm supposed to be. Or I guess he did, not at the beginning, but at the end, he was like, I have fallen away from the path in your mind.
Yeah.
So you have to kill me. Follow through on that promise.
Then Willem has a moment of questioning whether he believes that earth or heaven is more beautiful, which I found to be really interesting. Because, for me and my faith journey so far, it's been pretty obvious which one would be more beautiful.
Well, yeah.
Because for this world is tainted.
I don't remember that part.
I do. I quoted it.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, no, I didn't. That's just the quotes around Jesus' name.
Will?
So for the second cleansing of the temple, he pretty much instructs his disciples to go into town, acquire the donkey and the colt. Yeah. And then bring them back to him. And then he goes into town, and then he talks to some people, and they're like praising him because they recognize that he's.
Yeah.
And then it looks like he just goes straight to the temple.
Okay, so yeah, they did it right. At first, at the very beginning of the movie, he was in a desert, then he got baptized, and it was like, but then he went back into a desert, so it was like 2 different things. So, anyway.
Then he talked about and claimed he brought up Daniel's vision with the statue. I think it's with Nebuchadnezzar, where it's got the head of gold, chest of silver.
Yeah, whatever.
Waist of whatever. Yeah. And then he says how basically the entire statue's Rome and the rock that was thrown is me or something like that. That broke the clay feet. And it just made no sense to me.
Yeah.
I just felt like that was a completely
I don't think I followed during that part. I think I might have been distracted.
Yeah. I
have
hearing that, I was like, I feel like that you just kind of threw away a lot of the symbolism, and I don't remember any rock being thrown.
I'm pretty sure the actual...
The rock was...
There was a rock? Either way, I don't think Rome is the entire statue. That goes against the whole idea
entire
of Babylon
statue
being the head. And
the entire statue is so Babylon is an archetype used throughout the Bible.
Yeah.
So for the embodiment of evil that is Babylon. In fact, I think every example of Babylon throughout history has had a bird in their logo.
I believe America is the next Babylon.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I believe that fully.
Yeah, we don't need to go down that. But
cool symbolism?
Rome was an eagle, or not an eagle, but a bird, you know?
Yeah.
And that's all you really need to know. We know that Rome was a Babylon for the the Israelites, so we know. I think there might have also been a bird in Nazi Germany symbolism, to where that would technically be another Babylon, but I don't know.
Then the next thing that we noticed was during the crucifixion, he was really not beat up that much. He got whipped maybe 8 times.
Yeah, no.
He was very recognizable.
Very weak.
They put on a thorn crown, and that was kind of it. Where, as you mentioned all the time, he was beaten beyond recognition.
Yeah, you could not have recognized him before and after
Christ was
the crucifixion, or before and after the resurrection, I should say.
When I remember the Passion of Christ, did a lot better job of that.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure.
His face was all sorts of foul. You wouldn't even know that it was.
I can't wait to watch the movie. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I haven't seen it in a while, but it is pretty good. And so what we're doing, Will, is when we looked up The Last Temptation of Christ on Prime, on Amazon, like Prime Video, it showed up with The Last Temptation of Christ, The Passion of the Christ, and Jesus Christ Superstar, which 2 of those were movies I already wanted us to watch, and then The Passion. So I'm like, why don't we do a 3-parter? So we just watched The Last Temptation. Then on Thursday, we're going to watch Jesus Christ Superstar. And then next week, we're going to fit in Passion and do another one where we do a response. So it's going to be cool.
When are y'all planning on doing the Passion of the Christ?
Next week.
Sometime next week. It's probably going to Monday. I don't know when you get back.
I get back. Yeah, I don't know when. Like, early or late Monday.
Yeah.
I don't know yet. Ask me again this weekend.
So many exams next week.
I don't.
You have fluids on Monday with me.
Oh, rats.
And then I have heat transfer on Wednesday and experimental methods on Friday.
I got to figure out how Anyway, back to the movie. I don't want to think about that
Let's finish
now.
off this podcast, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. And then it gets into the guardian angel. And so now he's on the cross, right? Barely battered. He doesn't look like he's in pain at all. He's just kind of, you mentioned how he can breathe, which goes against how crucifixion works.
Yeah. Literally wrong.
He was really big chilling. It never showed the criminals on the sides. Like, they were there.
They were there, but it didn't, there was no interaction between him and Jesus.
It didn't include any of that. So, I mean, obviously the movie's not the entire story.
It literally says it's not based on the Gospels. It's
Yeah.
based off of an interpretation of the Gospels. A book. We have to read that book now.
I don't want to.
I kind of want to.
It would be fun.
Anyway.
I wonder how long it is.
I'll find out.
Okay. Then, so the guardian angel takes him off. And as soon as she's like, you don't actually need to die, he's like, okay. And then they get off the cross, and he goes and either experiences the vision or lives out his days in that vision.
Pretty sure it's just a vision.
Either way, then he goes and sleeps with Mary Magdalene, puts a child in her, God evaporates her with light, and then...
Literally.
Yeah.
She's like...
And then he goes and gets mad at God, starts hitting the grass dirt with an axe because Mary Magdalene just died. And then the guardian angel chick is like, but the other Mary from some other guy's brother or something like that.
Mary.
The other Mary.
Yeah,
the other Mary. He shows up there, puts some children in her. Then he grows old.
There was another thing.
He met Saul.
There was more before Paul.
There is.
In that it talks about the guardian angel said that there's only one woman in the world, but she has many faces. Yeah. So after Mary Magdalene died, the guardian angel was like, now go into the other one. And then...
See, that's all super satanic to me, but...
And then Mary, the other Mary was gone.
Makes sense.
The other Mary was gone for part of the day. And Martha was like, hey, come inside with me. And then the guardian angel said again, there's only one woman in the world with many faces. So he had 2 wives by the end. He had gone through 3 women. 1 died, 2 were still with him. But by the end of the vision, I should say. which was very interesting. The last temptation of Christ. That's like the only part of the movie that I think I super liked was that ending.
Yeah, I didn't even, personally.
Yeah. I only liked it because I had never seen or understood that really was the last temptation of Christ, in that he totally could have taken himself off of the cross. You know? He could have. But he willingly went onto it and willingly stayed on it.
Yeah.
So if the Catholics were ever going to... There was a whole controversy about this movie where... Like, I think there was a Catholic priest or something who was like, I think that this movie has some importance to it. And then some other guys that were like, this is absolutely heretical. It came out in 88, I think.
Oh, wow.
So it's old.
Yeah, Willem's pretty young in it.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe.
It's one of his first movies, and he killed it. I love Willem. He's so good. Even though it's like a terrible, heretical movie, you can appreciate it was kind of cool, but not biblical, and not, don't be trying to get info from that movie. Be like, you don't want to read? Watch this. No. Read, dude.
Actually, if you don't want to read, just
watch The Passion.
Passion's great.
Chosen
is also great.
Yeah.
Read,
though. Just read.
Just read.
That's all they had back then. By the way, the book has 506 pages. I figured that out.
506?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. I might...
Oh. Probably goes into way more detail.
Yeah, and it probably is a little... Well, because my thought is the book might not be as bad as the movie. Because the movie, that's 2 interpretations, 3 voices.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. The book was an interpretation of the Bible, right? And covering what other temptations Jesus might have experienced as a man. At least that's my
current understanding of it.
My current thought, because Martin Scorsese, not being a believer, making this movie, would go down another layer, right? 3rd voice, 2nd interpretation. It will be wrong compared to the book and compared to the Bible, but the book might be less wrong, So, I don't know. I haven't read the book. Don't quote me. You can if you want.
Yeah, it's like rolling down a hill. It's easier to go down than up.
I guess. Yeah. What were we talking about?
That's pretty much it. There's a brief moment where he's talking with Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Paul's like, you're not Jesus. And Jesus is like, you're wrong, Paul. You're lying. I
which
think could be
so,
a cool time trip, or was it more accusing that the disciples...
So Paul at the end of the movie, or during this vision that Jesus had on the cross, where he had a life and God said, you did good enough just being on the cross for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Which is, he's like, I don't need to die. I'm not the Messiah. That was, honestly, a really interesting... That's why I kind of like that vision sequence, because it's like, that would be exactly what it is. If you were off the cross, you are not the Messiah, or something like that. But anyway, so Jesus lives out his life and in this vision, and then there's a point where he's going into Jerusalem or something, and or a town, and there's Paul preaching, saying his testimony, and then Jesus goes up and confronts him, right? Because Jesus is supposed to be gone at this point and in heaven, ascended, under the circumstance that, because Paul was claiming, we're telling a lie, yes, but people have more hope in this lie. Basically is what he was saying, which is the most everyone who uses the word religious has that same sort of thought, where they go, yeah, but I feel better believing in this, even though it might be wrong. Whereas in our minds, we know it's right because we understand. We've done apologetics to some extent, some more than others, doesn't matter. We understand when we know. We know for a fact it's not I feel. Like Mormons, they're just like, when they reach any sort of doubt, they buckle down. Or no, they don't buckle down. They double down, and they just go, no, it's got to be true. And that's where, I just realized that table is not flat on the ground, Joe.
It's chill as long as the camera's fine.
All right. Anyway.
We're about to close.
Yeah, we are. One bad move, I thought Brad was going to stomp around. That would have fallen over. When he said, I did a cool walk earlier, a funny walk. If he had done that, that would have been over. Everything's fallen over. No, it was whatever. Doesn't matter. Come on, Joe. I think that's it.
All right. What an awful movie. I don't ever want to watch it again. However,
I thought it was really interesting.
Will. It was extremely fascinating.
I was so bewildered the entire time.
Yeah, every single scene it kept just taking it up a notch. I'm sure there's even more in that went over our heads.
Surely.
Yeah, it's if you are, I wouldn't watch it unless you were sound in your faith.
If you're a non-believer,
don't watch that.
Well, no, you can watch whatever you want. You don't care about God.
That's also fair.
If you're a new believer, don't yet.
Yet, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
Get grounded.
If you are a non-believer and you've seen that movie, that is not who Jesus Christ is. There we go.
Yeah, he's not Willem Dafoe.
No, he isn't.
Jesus is not Willem.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That was fun. I can't wait for the next episode.
Any final words?
Oh, for me? For me to say?
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe's kind of a baddie back when he was
huge
young.
dick.
Oh, yeah.
They had insane. He was flopping.
Anyways.
What?
The three of us should make out after this.
Okay.
Wow, now we're the heretics. All right, whatever, dude. I'm just going to cut. Do you want final words?
I wanted to do the cut.
Oh, do the cut, dude.
Cut. What's up, guys?
Subscribe.
Yes.
Thanks for watching that episode. I hope you really enjoyed. I know we had a fun time making it. Please, if you really want to support us on Patreon, you will be getting the episodes a week ahead of time. So it's definitely worthwhile, or not. Just support us, just support us, please.
We need money. You guys can find us on all the podcast platforms, hopefully. By this point,
you will.
So Spotify, Apple,
all of them.
I guess YouTube, but not really.
And YouTube.
So find us there, enjoy it, and if you don't, I will find you.
He found me.
Yeah. Amen. All right.
I think that's kind of it.
Shit. Okay.
All right. Off to Denny's.
That's a damn good. Yeah.